Hello and welcome. My name is Jason Murray. I'm a collaboration systems engineer at Cisco, and in this video I will be covering how to deploy Cisco video conferencing. In order to set this up, I'll be using the Cisco Telepresence server, which is on a virtualized machine, VTS, Cisco Telepresence Conductor, which is also in a virtual machine. And then once I walk through setting those two systems up, those virtual machines up, to the point where I can actually make ad hoc and rendezvous video meetings, I'll jump into setting up the collaboration meeting rooms, which we'll use in addition to Telepresence Server and Conductor. We'll also use Telepresence Management Suite, or TMS. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk a little bit on how this lab is set up. Alright, so this particular lab that I'm going to show you how to set up the video conferencing setup is a small part of a larger lab that is currently accessible via Cisco DCloud. There's a video that I created previous to this one, which is also part of this larger lab, that will go through the setup of Communications Manager, Unique Connection, Presence, and so on, using the Prime Collaboration Provisioning application. So that video is out there. You can go ahead and check that out if you like. It kind of builds on top. This video kind of builds on top of that one. In case you don't know what Cisco DCloud is, let me give you a short introduction to it. Cisco DCloud is accessible to Cisco partners and employees, and you only need your Cisco.com username and password to log in. It's located at the URL dcloud.cisco.com, and what dcloud does for you is it enables you to use pre-built demonstrations in the cloud and to be able to showcase Cisco products. So things are already built for you in virtual machines. Configuration is there for most part, and you just need to spin it up and you'll be able to go through all the different products that Cisco has. It's also slowly becoming a great place for hands-on training labs such as this one to learn more on how to do setup of some particular Cisco products. So, a little short introduction. If you want to find out more, go to Cisco. Go to the dcloud.cisco.com, and there's a lot of videos and things like that you can watch to give you a little bit more idea what Cisco DCloud can do for you. So now that you have an little idea what DCloud is, let's go ahead and talk about this little particular section of the lab. Alright, so this is the lab setup. We have all the virtual machines listed here. This is not all what we're going to be covering in this particular section, because this is part of the larger lab. As I was telling you earlier, this video is only focusing on the video conferencing portion of this lab. So we're not going to be covering all these different virtual machines, but this is what it looks like. We will be covering configuration on Communications Manager, the specific parts that have to do with video conferencing. We also will be touching on configuration of Telepresence Conductor and the virtual Telepresence server. Those parts are involved in creating ad hoc and rendezvous video conferencing. Now, these particular VMs have already been pre-deployed, so they come in OVAs that you deploy onto the SXI server. So that has already been done for you. I've covered some videos before on how to do deployments on virtual machines. They're pretty simple. The basic things have been set up on it, like an IP address, the DNS, the licensing we've already put on there. But I will go through the different parts and pieces what I've already done on those particular servers, so you have an idea. But we're going to get right into, once the basics are done, this is how you set the rest of it up. So that's what we're going to be covering in this video. We also have TMS, the Telepresence Management Suite. That's involved in when we're setting up the collaboration meeting rooms. So that's been pre-set up, pre-deployed, and I'll give you a little bit more information on some documents you can go to get that set up to where it is now. That's going to be, we're going to be specifically configuring collaboration meeting rooms on pretty much an already set up TMS server. So that's in there. As far as the design goes and where we're pulling our configuration for, you can see a URL at the bottom of the screen, the Cisco Collab PA. Basically, if you go to this site, this page, this is Cisco's preferred architecture design. So if you look down, there's documents regarding enterprise design, and there's smaller businesses like BE6K kind of designs, and there's documentations that go through CVDs, which are Cisco validated designs. And for the enterprise, it basically gives you how to set this up. in order to have a successful running Cisco infrastructure on different items here. So it's not meant to be an end-all be-all on, this is a way you have to configure it, but it's more of a guide that you can go look to. You have all this different technology out there. What am I supposed to do with it? What's the recommended way of setting this up? So that's what those guides are intended to do, and you can go to that link there and get more information on this design, the configuration, why they did the way they did it, and use those as one of your tools in getting your configuration, your infrastructure set up. So that's the lab. Let's go ahead now and get into the configuration steps. All right, so we are now logged on to the actual lab. So we're on the workstation 1 here. Already keyed into it. We've got our website up. This is the home page that you will see because it has our links to our servers and things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to configure the VTS, the Virtual Telepresence Server. So let's go ahead and log on to that particular server. So the VTS server. There's a small amount of configuration that you can do on here. The most of it will be done on the Conductor. So let's get on the Telepresence server here. Log in with the admin account, which is the only account we have on the system, and we'll log in. So now we can see kind of a basic status of what's on here, what version's running, and all that. Let me. We've got version 4.0 as you saw in the lab setup, and the map. The diagram there. So there's a few things that we have already set up on here. Like I said, we've got pre-deployed, so you can kind of see we have IP address, some of the basic configuration, subnet mask, different things like that. We've also got the DNS set up already, so we've got the DNS name, the DNS server here, what the domain name is, and this has already been set up on our DNS server, so we can get to it via the name of the virtual telepresence server. There's also some services that we'll have that are pre-deployed. This HTTPS does not get automatically there until you actually load the licenses. So if you go to configuration upgrade, you have to have the license installed. So we've got the activation one here, and this is the encryption one. This is actually enables HTTPS. So you have to have that already installed on there before you can enable the 443 port or the HTTPS protocol. So since we got that there, we'll go ahead and do it securely. You can also disable HTTP if you want. You can change different things here, but we'll just go ahead and leave everything as is, and we will apply the changes here, and then we'll move on to the next thing, which is setting up a user account in the users directory or page here in order for Conductor to access and use Telepresence Server. So we're going to click a new user. We've got an admin account. That's all we have on this system. So we're going to create a new user ID for this particular account, CondAdmin, and then we're going to give it a password, and then we'll re-enter the password. As far as the access rights go, we're going to give it the API access role. We don't need an administrator account. We already have one. We can create multiple admin accounts, but we just need API access for this. So we're going to click Add User. And that's pretty much it on the Telepresence server side of things. So not very many configurations to do here. We're going to go to the Conductor now. Open another tab up and go to the Conductor bookmark, so we can start configure that. This is something that there's a lot more configuration to do on the Conductor than there is a Telepresence server. So got the overview page. One thing, there's something pre-set up that we've done on here already. So go to maintenance, option keys. This is where you're going to put, most importantly, you've got option keys, but most importantly, you want to set up your release keys. Now, option keys you may get away with not having to have, but release key you have to have set. So make sure you get that there and put that on, which we've already done. So let's poke it in there. Next thing we're going to look at, what we've already set up, is DNS, and we've already set this up on our DNS server. So we have this host name that we're using for the Conductor, so we can do that. And then we've got the, of course, the DNS server set up here. And then next thing is our NTP. So we've got an NTP server out there. We put that in there, and we've also you can show that it's synchronized to reachability, and we've set it to a certain time zone. And now that we've looked at the pre-configuration that we've done, let's go ahead and do some actual configuration. So the first thing we're going to do is go to users and then administrator accounts, and this account that we're going to set up, other than the admin account we already have on here, is going to be used for communications manager to set up the conference bridge. So we're going to see that, and later on in the video where we're going to use this at. So we're going to create a new user account on here, put a password, and confirm that password. We don't need web access for this account because we don't need to use this to log into the system. We have an admin account for that, but we'll go ahead and turn that off here, and then we're going to click Save to create that account. And the next thing we're going to configure is a couple new IP addresses. So we're going to go System IP. And here you can tell we have some pre-configuration. We've got a gateway. We've got an IP address already in system. That's how we're able to get to it. Subnet mask and all that. So we're going to click New to add a new IP address that's reachable. This is for our ad hoc or instant meetings. So on the fly instant meetings, we're going to be able to direct users or devices to this IP address. And then we're going to need one more for our rendezvous or permanent meetings. We're going to go ahead and send them to a different IP address. So we're going to put that in here now, like we did with the other one, 208, and then we're going to hit add address. So added a couple new IP addresses means that we're going to get an alarm because we've changed the system a little bit. So that basically means we're going to need to do a restart. So in order to use those, so we're going to click this little restart link, bring us to the restart page, and then we're going to click this button that says restart, hit OK, and then now what it's going to do is be a couple minutes and the system will come back up, and then we can do some more configuration. So won't let you sit through that. We're going to go ahead and pause, and then we'll pick it back up after the restart. Alright, so just like that, we've got our server up, our conductor, and now we can log back into it after a couple minutes. Alright, so we're going to do a few steps to get the conference, the conductor set up to do conferencing, video conferencing. There's kind of an order. If you do it in a certain order, there's a little bit less steps, less clicking around. So we're going to kind of do that in this order here. So we're going to do conference configuration, and we're going to create a bridge pool first. Alright, so bridge pool, we're going to click new, and basically a bridge pool contains all the conference bridges, which in this lab we only have the one conference bridge, this one virtual telepresence server. Now there's different types, two different types. There's a telepresence MCU, and then we have the telepresence server. You can only put one type in each pool, so either MCUs, all MCUs, or all servers, our virtual telepresence server. So we're going to create pool because that's what we're using, and we got that created. So it's empty now, so let's create a new conference bridge by clicking this button here, and then we'll give it a name to whatever name you want to give it. This is specific to one telepresence server, so one here, and then we can add multiple if we had them. Of course, the state is going to stay enabled. We don't want to disable it. We're going to add it so we can use it. Now we can put in an IP address or a fully qualified domain name like I have if you've got DNS set up. If the encryption license installed, we can do encryption or HTTPS, so we do have that. And then the username here and the password, remember we set this up on the telepresence server earlier. This is where you put that in at so we can connect into it. Create conference bridge, and now we can see that the conference bridge has been added and created, and the status right now says it's unusable, which hasn't connected into it just yet. So what we can actually do is we can refresh this page, and then we'll see that here in a second it is active. So we have an active conference bridge. That means the username, password, all that is good to go. So next thing we're going to do is going to create our service preferences. And now we're going in here, click new, create a new service preference, and basically as I'm filling this out, the service preference is basically a collection or a priority ordered list of bridge pools. So pools contain conference bridges and service preferences contains pools. So I'm going to click add service preference. It's going to be a service preference for telepresence servers, and then we're going to add the pool here and click save. Alright, so now we have a service preference created. You can have multiple pools in here, and it'd be in order of what of priority, basically. So next thing, what we're going to do is going to go back to the same menu and create a template, a conference template. We're going to click new. Now, basically, a template determines, or it sets the parameters of the conference. So this particular one, we're going to create the parameters surrounding a instant meeting or an ad hoc meeting. So this is what we're going to do. We got Telepresence servers is the service preference. You can do participant quality, so you can tell if it, low quality, high quality. We can keep it at HD for this particular video, and then content quality. If they're sharing content, what quality is going to be in. We can choose this particular one here and create the conference template. So you attach this to every different type of meeting. So we're going to create a new one and basically assign this now to our permanent meetings or our rendezvous meetings, and set the parameters for that. Again, you select the pool, the service preference, and then we're going to keep the same parameters. We could have kept the same one, use the same one, but in reality you probably want to maybe do different parameters for different types of meetings. So that's why we created two separate ones here. Alright, next thing is a conference alias, and this gets assigned to our, we're going to click new, this gets assigned to our permanent meetings or our rendezvous meetings. We don't need it for our ad hoc meetings, but we do need an alias to tell them where to dial or what to dial when coming in for a permanent or a rendezvous meeting. So for this particular alias, we're going to use the number 850 and then 4 digits, so kind of a blank thing. So any numbers within that number we'll be able to accept or incoming. This is what it's going to be. So 850 ... and then whatever domain, it doesn't matter on the end of it. So we're going to accept that. You can be a little bit more granular if you want. One, you can do individual ones if you wanted. This particular conference name, we're going to see this when I do the test, but it's going to attach the phone number basically, and then .permanent meeting on every conference, and we'll see that here in a little bit. And then conference template, we're going to choose the permanent meeting on that there. Alright, so now that we have our alias created for our rendezvous or permanent meetings, the next thing we're going to need to do is create a location. Basically, a location is kind of puts it all together. So when you build your SIP trunks and CCM, it builds it to this one location with the IP addresses and stuff. So we're going to go and click new location name. We'll just type this in. So this is going to be whatever name you want to put it in there. You can put a description. I'm going to go ahead and paste in a description that I have on the guide. Put that in there. Basically, like I said, it's the permanent connections, the SIP trunks. We're going to do both types. We're going to ad hoc and rendezvous, and then we're just going to fill in all the things that we already configured. So the IP address for ad hoc conferences. We're going to go ahead and choose the template they're going to use when they do connect in through that SIP trunk, and then rendezvous, we're going to do the IP address here. And then for out dial calls, this is when it sends it out the SIP trunk, we're going to go ahead and send it to Communications Manager, and it's going to be from our rendezvous port for dialing out to devices. So the last thing here is we got to go back to the bridge pool. Since we didn't have a location before, we've got to set that location, and here it is. So we'll go ahead and set that. Now we put that in there and hit save. Alright, so that completes the configuration for the Conductor and the Telepresence server. So those are ready to go. The next thing we're going to do is configure Communications Manager. So that's what we're going to do right now. Is we're going to get onto the Communications Manager server. We use the bookmark to get there. And then now we're going to log in here. Now the Communications Manager, like I said, it's already been integrated, configured, everything's good to go. So we're just most specifically configuring the video conferencing portion, so SIP trunks and stuff. So once we get logged in here, we're going to create a couple SIP trunks to our Conductor. So we're going to go device, then trunk. Click add new. This is going to be a SIP trunk, and everything else can be default. Couple mandatory settings. We got to give it a name, so I've got one here that I'm going to paste in. This one's going to be for the ad hoc instant meeting. Device pool is also required. You can use the default if you're using that, but probably going to use some sort of device pool that you've got set up on the system. And then what we're going to do is scroll down to the SIP information section so we can put the IP address to the conductor, that one IP address that we set up for the instant meetings or the ad hoc meetings. And that was 198.18.133.207. We're going to keep everything else as default. The SIP trunk profile, security profile, we're just going to use the default non-secure SIP trunk file. We can make it secure if we wanted to. Just going to keep it that way for simplicity. And then we've got some pre-built SIP profiles already in here, and we're going to use that. And then we're also going to use this normalization script to the, that's, like I said, this is pre-built, already in here at default. So click Save, click OK to save those changes. The next thing we're going to do is, once this page refreshes, is we're going to reset. I like to always reset SIP trunks. Sometimes it's not needed, sometimes it is. It's always safe to reset the SIP trunk after you create it. So that one's good to go. Next thing we're going to do is, since we've got this new SIP trunk for the instant meeting or the ad hoc, we've got one more address to connect to, which is the 208, which is for our permanent meeting or our rendezvous. So we're going to click Add New. Again, same settings. Trunk type is going to be SIP trunk. And then we're going to keep the default settings here. Again, got a name that we're going to put in here. That's the default setting. So we're going to go ahead and paste in a name. So this is for our permanent meeting or called rendezvous. Again, same device pool. Something different on this particular trunk for the rendezvous or the permanent meeting is configuring the inbound dials, because when you do an inbound, remember we had outbound calls from the conductor. Well, this is what trunk it's going to use. So we're going to need to put a calling search space in here to find those numbers. So in this particular setup, we're going to use the base CSS, which will find all the numbers in our lab. So if you're, that's for outbound dials from the conductor. Again, with the SIP information, we're going to connect to that IP address we created on the conductor, that third IP address. So it's 208. Same SIP trunk security profile, same SIP profile, and then the same normalization script. And then we're going to click Save. Again, click OK. And then again, once this page refreshes, we will do a reset. Always safe to do a reset, even if it's not needed. I believe in this case it is, so we're going to click Reset and then click Close to close this box out. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is create a route pattern to that anybody that dials 850 and then 4 numbers, it's going to get directed to that SIP trunk for this permanent meeting or rendezvous. So we're going to click Call Routing, Route Hunt, and then we're going to choose Route Pattern. So this is going to be a new route pattern. And the route pattern is going to be 850 and then 4 X's. So any number range within that will get sent down to the conductor. So give it a partition so it's reachable by our phones, our devices. And then the SIP trunk we want to send it down is this permanent meeting trunk or this rendezvous. So we're going to click Save on here to save it. Pretty simple. And then we're going to have to click OK a couple times. OK on this box. And then OK one more time and refresh that page. So that creates our route pattern for our permanent meeting or rendezvous conferencing. Now we're going to create the actual conference bridge. So we're going to go to Media Resources and Conference Bridge and create our conference bridge, which is basically our conductor. So type is going to be Telepresence Conductor. We're going to give it a name here. Doesn't matter what the name is. You can give it whatever. It doesn't. It's not corresponding to anything. For this one, we're going to give it that, and then we're going to send it down to the instant meeting. So this is going to be for ad hoc meetings. So when you click the conference button, this is going to go down that trunk, unlike the rendezvous that we created earlier. And remember, we created that username password earlier on Conductor. This is what that's for, to create this conference bridge. So we're going to put that information in here. So that CUCM admin account that we created on the conductor. We're going to click Save. Again, I always like to do the reset. Always, saves troubleshooting later with not doing a reset. So it's always safe to do a reset. on your devices after you create them, and then we're going to go back to our conference bridge list, and we can see all the different conference bridges that we have right now. Right now the Richardson conductor says unregistered, and I click another find. There we go. It is registered now with Communications Manager. It means the username and password is good to go, connecting to this IP address right here, the 207 address. Alright, now that we have a conference bridge created, it's registered to Communications Manager, we need to put this in a media resource group. It's kind of how that works, group then list. So we're going to create a media resource group, or we can actually add it to an existing one if we had it, but in this case we're going to go ahead and create a brand new group and put that conference bridge in there. We got a name here, we're just going to paste this in, and then we're going to select the conductor from the available media resources and then put it in this new group. So now we have one. We're going to click save. Once we have that group created, we can either create a new list for it, or we can actually put it in an existing list. So that's what we're going to do. We have one created already. This is going to put all the devices into one group, or into one list, and we've got one left here that's available. Everything else has already been put into this particular list. We're going to drop it down, and now we have our media resource group in here, and then we can go ahead and click save. And now we can assign this particular list to our devices, and usually you do that by going into the device pool, which we've already gotten. Click find, and then we've got this Richardson device pool here, and we assign the media resource group list to that device pool, or you can set it individually on your different devices, but that's how we have this particular lab set up. Alright, and that completes the configuration to set up video conferencing using Virtual Telepresence Server and Conductor. Now we should be able to create ad hoc meetings as well as permanent or rendezvous meetings as well. So we're going to go ahead and test that out, and we're going to use our Jabber client that is installed on this workstation. This is a remote workstation, so it's a little bit slow when you pull it up, but we're going to log in with one of our users here and be able to dial in and create a permanent meeting using the 850. Remember, 850 is our route pattern that we set up in Communications Manager. It's also the alias that we used when we set that up on Conductor. So we can choose any wide range of numbers within that 850. 1, 2, 3, 4 is what I chose. And here we go. We connected in. We are on the Telepresence server that's hosting this meeting right now. So now we have a name. If you remember in the alias, we used that wildcard /1 for the name. That just pulled the number you dialed, then .permanent.meeting. So you can use whatever you want in there. That was just an example there. So what I'm going to do now is taking this number, I'm going to go on one of my 9971s and dial this exact same number, and you'll see that it connects in and creates that conference, or a net conference. And there we go. As you can see my ceiling here making this video. Alright, we've got a conference using the Telepresence server. I can give you a little wave, show you I'm here. Hello. Alright, so that is a Telepresence conference meeting, permanent rendezvous meeting set up right there. So that works just like that. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect this call. So ad hoc meetings are a little bit more difficult to show on screen, so you're just going to have to take it from me that it does work with that configuration. I've already tested it, and it works with my hard phone. So because of that, we're going to go ahead and jump right into collaboration meeting rooms and setting those up. But before I get into the configuration, I need to cover a few things, kind of talk about collaboration meeting rooms, CMRs, and what has been pre-configured and things, so you can get right into configuration. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about CMRs. Alright, so let's discuss the next part of this video, which is setting up collaboration meeting rooms, or CMRs. What CMRs do is they give everyone in your organization a personal video collaboration room, and these can be accessed from mobile devices, desktops, room systems, and you can access them from on premises or off. You'll see this in the video, but once a user has been given access to set up their own CMR, they'll be able to go into a specialized web page and personalize it with like a name and a PIN. The system will then give that user their own special phone number and URI based on the settings that you'll configure. You'll see those in the video coming up. Once they have those, they can give that out to anyone that they want to meet via video, and then they can meet it on demand anytime they'd like. So you'll see that experience here shortly, because we'll set CMR up, and then we'll shoot out an email to a user, and you'll see what they would see in their own email box and how to set their own collaboration meeting room up. Now, there's a few different solutions to incorporate CMRs into your environment. First, there is CMR Cloud, and this requires little setup on your part to enable it, because what it is actually an optional add-on if you have the Cisco WebEx Meeting Center subscription. So it's pretty simple to set up. There's really nothing you have to do but other just add it on to your already existing subscription. Now, the second one is CMR Premises, and this is what I'll be showing you how to set up in this video. This will require Communications Manager, Conductor, Telepresence Server, and TMS. Now, you just watched how to set up UCM, Telepresence Server, and Conductor at the start of this video. That's that portion setting up the conferencing part. The TMS portion of the config is what I'll cover in this next part. And the last solution is the CMR Hybrid, and it's just how it sounds. It's a combination of the CMR Cloud and the Premises solution. And if you'd like to learn more about collaboration meeting rooms, you can use this link right here. So to set up the CMR Premises solution, you need to have the following minimum software versions. For TMS, you need versions 4.4. There is a TMS provisioning extension that will get installed onto the TMS server, and that needs to be at least version 1.2. And finally, you have Conductor, and that needs to be at least at version XC 2.3. In this particular lab, we have TMS 14.5, TMS PE 1.3, and Conductor is at XC 2.4. Now, in this video, I will go right into the configuration for CMR. In the lab, I've already got a few things set up, like the TMS server. This has already been installed and configured to work with Communications Manager, so you need to have that set up. I'm not going to go through that configuration. Kind of goes out of the scope of what I'm trying to do in this video. So that's installed. That's integrated with Communications Manager. We also have the provisioning extension. Is already installed on the TMS server. It's basically an exe file that you download onto TMS, the Windows server, and you install it, and you just kind of follow the instructions on doing that. And there's also a license that you have to install onto TMS in order for you to be able to configure that TMS PE. Now, like I said, TMS runs on a Windows server. It's a pretty simple setup, and you follow using the install guides. And the provisioning extension is also fairly simple. Once you get TMS set up and everything, you'll download that onto the Windows server and install it. It's kind of following the instructions in the guide. So there's a couple links right here: the TMS install link, documents, and the TMS PE install documents. If you go to there, you can download the latest guide, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It'll step you right through getting those two things set up. Alright, so now that I've covered this page and this info here, let's go ahead and get right into configuration of the collaboration meeting rooms. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is create a user account on the Conductor by going to Users and then Administrative Accounts. Now, we've set one up before for CUCM. We're going to go ahead and create a new one for CMR. So, maybe for security reasons, we could use the same account for all these applications, but in case you want to keep, if you have a different TMS administrator and a different CUCM administrator or whatever, we're going to create two separate ones. Just what we're going to do here. So we don't need to get web access to this particular user. They don't have any need to log into the Conductor, so we'll just take that away. All right, so that does the only thing you have to do on the Conductor to get this set up. So we're going to open up another tab, and we're going to get into the TMS server. We got a bookmark here in this environment, and since it's a Windows server, we've got a little different way of authenticating instead of a splash page. So we're going to put that in, and then we're going to click OK. All right, so one thing that's involved in the CMR is the provisioning extension. I mentioned that earlier before. That needs to be installed. And once you get that installed, you'll go to the Administrative Tools and come down to the Configuration menu, then Provisioning Extension Settings. And this is where you would do some configuration. Now, you also need to have the license installed to support this, the PE. So you go into general settings, and then down here you'll see that we have this license installed for provisioning extension. The settings we'll go back to in a little bit when we start talking about the emails and things that'll get sent out, but for now we'll just go ahead and get started with the configuration. So we're going to modify some of our users. So we're going to go to provisioning and then users. Like I said earlier, this is a working TMS server, so we do have a folder set up already. We do have some users in it, but we're gonna modify. I'll show you a little bit how to modify the user settings if you wanted to change this. So we click edit. Right now, the video address pattern is set up as email, and we can kind of different tags you can put in here, so you can change this up just in case everybody's email is the same. We can make it more specific and say their username at dcloud.cisco.com, which is probably their email address, but we'll just change it here. Again, we're going to add a caller ID pattern, office phone. This is relevant to the office phone settings in Active Directory if you have that set up. And then another place we're just going to go ahead and put the same thing, username at dcloud.cisco.com for the device address pattern. So we're going to click OK on here. To import the users, if we have LDEP already integrated, we see we have 4 in here already, but if you wanted to make sure that your users in here, get them in the system, you click start import. That would pull the users in, apply the settings, and then once you get them in there, then you can see the users are set up, and we've got 4 already configured in here. So if you are running 14.04 or later, you will have this new collaboration meeting rooms template section in here. Like I said, you have to have a minimum version of TMS 14.4 before you'll see this. Once you do have that, or you do have that there, we can start configuring the conductor to connect into the conductor. So we're going to click that link, and we're going to click add new to get the conductor connecting in. So you can use a host name, IP address, whatever you have set up. We do have DNS, as I showed you earlier. DNS is set up, so we'll paste that address in. Now this name could be whatever you want it to be. It's just something relevant to the system. Doesn't have any bearing on anything else. Just as kind of a description. We've got port 443. It's by default. Remember, we turned that on as well. We're doing things securely here. And then the CMR conductor username that we set up at the beginning of this section. This is what we're going to put in here, and then the domain dcloud.cisco.com is what we have in this particular environment. So we click save. It's going to connect, verify that the settings are good to go, and right away we've got our the information we have here. No errors means everything's good, so we can go ahead and click this X and close that out. All right, so the next thing that we are going to configure here is a template. So all these users are in a group, and you can create templates for these groups, so when they create a room, they'll get the same settings. So in order to do that, we're going to click on this new template link, and then once this comes up, we're going to go ahead and give it a name. It can be whatever you want it to be, just whatever's relevant to you. And then come down here, we've got the Telepresence conductor, which we just connected to, so now we see that in the list. And then what it's doing is going to pull information out from the conductor. So it already sees the service preference that we set up, so we've got 1. And then for the next setting, we've got a SIP alias pattern. This is basically the URI pattern that if someone wanted to use a URI dialing, they can use this to connect into the room. So this is going to be on the fly based off of their username at meet.dcloud.cisco.com. So if anybody uses that URI to dial, it's going to get sent to this meeting room, to their meeting room. We're also going to set up number dialing, so we're going to base that off of their office phone. The prefix for all these numbers we're going to set up to dial in is going to be 850. And then what we can do is we can use a regex command to base that off of their office phone and then pull the last 4 digits off. So if we use this particular regex command here, it's kind of hard maybe to see, but this basically tells the system to pull the last 4 digits off of the office phone and attach that to the end of 850, and that will be their numeric number that someone would dial to call into their meeting room. For the maximum conference quality, we're going to go ahead and, you've got the same settings we saw on Conductor. We're going to go ahead and just put HD. And then for the content quality, the same settings we set when we set up those aliases for the ad hoc and rendezvous. settings. We're going to optimize resources. This kind of does a few things to optimize, the settings there. So, and then you're going to click Save on this particular template. And now the last thing we're going to do is actually assign that new template to these users. So we do that by checking or selecting this radio button here, and then it's going to come up and says this will change the template that's assigned to this group. Requires you to do a sync and all that good stuff. So we're going to go ahead and say, yep, we want this to sync, and we want these applied to these users. And it's going to do a little sync. And that's pretty much it for configuration. Now we're going to go ahead and first we're going to send out an email now. I mean, everybody's set up, ready to go. Now they need to know how to do that. So there's an email that gets sent out right here. If you click this button to send account information, it'll send an email address out to all the users in this group. But to format that user, remember we looked at this earlier, this provisioning extension settings in the configuration menu, provisioning extension settings. Now, once we get in here, you may remember it briefly, we kind of went to this page, but this is where you modify the email that you send out to the user. So you have to have it integrated with some kind of mail server. In this environment, we have Exchange, Microsoft Exchange, so you have to have that set up. But this is, you can modify this to whatever you would like to put in there. So we can, it says below your provisioning account information is here. This is based on their username. Here's the password that everybody gets set up with. It gives them the link to click on to get into their to set up their CMR, and you also have to put in, like I said, the mail settings, so it sends it out through your Exchange or mail server, and then it will email that out to all your users in the group. All right, so now that we have that email settings set up here, let's go ahead and send out this email to our users. So in order to do that, we're going to click on the Systems menu, go to Provisioning, and then click on Users, and that'll bring us back to that page we were in previously. We'll click on the Cisco DCloud group, and to send that out, we'll click this link, Send Account Information, and then it's going to ask you one last time, are you sure you want to send all an information email out to these users in this group and all the subgroups? And we'll click Yes to initiate that email. Now let's go ahead and look at what that email looks like by using our Outlook client that we have loaded on this system. And what you can see is now we have an email here from CMR admin, and then in the body of the message is that configuration that we did earlier. So it sends out to Adam McKenzie, the user. It's got the username because of that tag we had in there, and then we also have this link that they're going to be able to click on. So let's go ahead and copy this out, and then we can click on it, copy it out. Let's go ahead and copy it out, and then put it in our browser here, and see what the user is going to see when they get into this portal. And since we don't have those certificates loaded on this particular server, we'll have to click Continue to this website. And then this is where the user will use those credentials in that email and log in. Usually it's going to be their domain account information. That's what gets sent in there. So we're going to click OK. And then what that's going to do is bring them into the CMR portal. And you can see a few different options here. I'm not for sure why this Find Me is lower than the rest. Usually that's lined up. It's something to do with this web page, but you can schedule meetings here, and you can also add devices if you have Find Me set up. But more specifically, let's talk about the collaboration meeting room. Now this user has the ability to create their own video collaboration meeting room. So we're going to click on this link. Now this is what every user is going to see when they click that link. They're going to be able, if they haven't set one up yet, this is the first page they're going to see. So since you haven't set one up yet, we're going to go ahead and create one by clicking this Set Up Your CMR button. Alright, so on the next page, you can name your CMR, so you can put whatever name you want on here. It's optional if you don't put anything in here, just click Next. But let's go ahead and put a name in here, and then you'll see once we connect in the test where you see that name when you initially connect in there. So My Most Awesome Meeting Room is what we're going to give this particular room, and then we're going to go ahead and click Next to move on. Alright, set your CMR pin. Now this is optional right here, but we did have a chance earlier on in TMS to make this mandatory. So let's go back to TMS and see where that actually is. So back on this page here where we were setting up this template, we can go ahead and go back in here and click this pencil and hit Edit. Now down here on the settings here, Once this page comes up, you can see that require a conference pin. You can check that, and then you can actually set the minimum length. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now is at 0, so there's no length. But we're going to go ahead and click cancel. We're not going to require a pin right now. So let's go ahead and go back to that setup and just hit finish. And that's the only thing the user needs to do to set up their collaboration meeting room. And just like that, the user has just set up their own most awesome meeting room. So you can do some changes. You can set pin. You can send an email out to people notifying them of your meeting room. You've got a URI. You've got a video number. As you can tell, it's the last 4 digits of the user's account number or phone number, 6016. That's what we set up in TMS. You also can change the layout if you wanted to for this particular meeting room. So you got a little bit of flexibility and for your own personal meeting room. Let's go ahead and dial that number and see how that works. So we're going to connect into 850-6016. The route pattern is already there, and you can see now we can see the name of this meeting room. So that's where it's going to show up. And then other users, if they wanted to, they can go ahead and dial that same number and get that set up and get right into the room and start doing some video collaboration with you. Let's go ahead and close this conversation out, or this call out. And now the next thing we're going to do is we want to get this video address working so people can use this to dial into it. But right now it's not quite working just yet because we don't have it set up to route properly in Communications Manager. So in order to get it to route to the conductor and get to the meeting room, we need to get Communications Manager configured correctly. So we'll open that up, and then what we're going to do is we will go to the call routing menu. Come down to the SIP route pattern. So we're going to be able to route on that whatever's after the @ sign there. So we're going to click add new, and we're going to do domain routing, and then we're going to do the meet.dcloud.cisco.com. We're going to give it a partition that everybody can reach, and then we're going to send that down that permanent meeting or that rendezvous trunk. Click save. And that's pretty much all we need to do on Communications Manager to get this to route properly. So let's go ahead and open our Jabber back up, and then we will copy that address out so we don't have to type it in. And then what we're going to do is dial that particular number in Jabber. So let's paste that into the call block, and now we should be able to reach that meeting room. And we are. So most awesome meeting room is connected, and we know that now we can route on either the address pattern or the number. So either way, you're going to be able to get into it by either option. Now we'll go ahead and close this call out. And with that, it brings us to the end of the video. As you've seen, getting video conferencing set up with Telepresence Server and Conductor is a pretty simple process. You also saw setting up collaboration meeting rooms on premises is an even easier process. And also that using CMRs will allow a user to set up their own personalized video room with just a few clicks. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. Remember that if you're a Cisco partner or an employee, you can get hands-on access to this lab in its entirety right now at dcloud.cisco.com. Thanks for watching, and always thanks for choosing Cisco.